Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. Today is beautiful March 28th, 2016. We hope that you had a beautiful Easter. As we do all the time on Charlton and Big C worldwide, we want to thank our Latin American audience. We have people growing all over the country listening to our show, giving us likes on Twitter. And Big C, I want to also thank you for your excellent work. I get a lot of people asking, who is Big C? So Big C, I don't know. I think you're part of the Wizard of Oz, Big C. But I'm telling you, you got about 40 years in the business as an athlete, all-pro football player. Also, you've been in coaching. You've been on national TV and radio. You also have some good connections in Hollywood. And speaking of Hollywood, I know you love to pay homage to a lot of the great actors coming out of Southern California. And Jamie Foxx does it as well as anybody, Big C.
Well, you know, Jamie Foxx is an icon in Hollywood, Charlton. He has done such a great level of work. You know, when you look at the range of his talent over the past decade, you know, this is a guy who started out years ago back in the 80s on a show called In Living Color.
Yeah.
Put together by the Wayans brothers.
Damon Wayans,
and he has just grown from that role, Charlton. When you look at some of his movie exploits, they're second to none in Hollywood. When you look at the movie Ray, when he played and portrayed Ray Charles, I mean, such an iconic movie. He played it to the T.
Yeah.
But Charlton, he's also played in sports movies that, if people don't realize, any given Sunday, along with Cameron Diaz and the great Al Pacino.
Yeah.
But I think one of his most iconic roles, Charlton, was when he played in Ali with Will Smith, and he played Drew Bundini Brown in this movie. And he was always the voice of the champ, and he played that role so expertly. And he's played in westerns such as Django. He's played along with Tom Cruise, Charlton. Just a great actor over the decades.
And I believe that in Django they had Leonardo DiCaprio was also in the movie Django. And what I like about his range, a lot like Will Smith, and I know it goes back to the Oscars when Chris Rock was put out there on a pedestal to say, you know, don't discriminate. We just want the same opportunity. But like Spike Lee, who I think, along with Malcolm X or even Dr. King, go out and create your own thing. Because, Big C, as you know, you've been around the business on the front side and the inside, what happens in business, whether it's sports and Hollywood. If you don't have your own thing, you're going to always sit back and wait for someone to give you something. So Jamie Foxx, not only is he a great actor, Big C, he's also a great entertainer. He's a great musician. He has a great voice as well, Big C.
Oh, yeah. You know, you heard him on the Billboard charts, Charlton. He's done some collabor with some other R&B artists. I mean, he's been on the top of the charts music-wise. So this man is just a great talent. He's not limited to a movie role or a television role.
Yeah.
He just has that cross level of talent, Charlton, that you have to just appreciate and respect in society.
Well, I think that's so true. And I remember seeing the movie Creed again because I keep watching it. I think Sylvester Stallone, his body of work has been so great. And you talked about Ali. I forget the name of the cut man that was in Creed, but I actually met him at some MMA fights in Sacramento. I think his name is Stitch, but I do want to pay, respect by knowing the right name. But just thinking about that, how difficult it is to become great at anything. But one of the greatest things, where there's a Tupac, where there's Dr. Dre, where there's Ice Cube, Will Smith, John Travolta, who has such a wide range as an actor, or even the great Jack. All of these guys, they were talented enough to not have to beg someone for opportunity. And I think Spike Lee's done it so well. You see him in the commercials with Sam Jackson and Charles Barkley. They're trying to drive to the big dance, the Final Four, Big C. And these guys do it on their own. And I think that's one of the things that, if you think about someone like, all the actors, it doesn't matter what color you are, Jamie Foxx has done it on his own for the most part because he's branched out from In Living Color, Big C.
Well, Charlton, what you really have to look at is that these guys have taken key leading roles in movies.
Yeah.
And they have looked at the quality of the body of their work, which is always key.
Yeah.
When you can't take actors, when you think about Tom Cruise, you always think about the body of his work, starting off from Risky Business when he was this teenage high school football player to where he's gone now with the Mission Impossible series along with Vin Rames and actors such as that, is that his level of work keeps escalating. And that's the key. You don't take roles that don't benefit you. When we talked about Al Pacino,
Yeah.
people can go through Al Pacino's history, Charlton, and look at the quality of his work. We looked at Adam Sandler, who is more of a comedic actor.
Yeah.
He is going to put laughter in everybody's heart when he's out there. And you look at it in his array of roles, that he doesn't take it all that serious, but everyone enjoys their movies, Charlton.
And speaking of enjoying their movies, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the Cadillac Escalade. You can only get it there new. Go by and test drive the Cadillac Escalade. Tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, when you think about actors, and then we talk so much about this March Madness, and it really doesn't get exciting until you get down to the final 16. But right now we have 1 week from today, they're holding the championships game in Houston. We have number 2 seed Villanova. They're playing Oklahoma, also a 2 seed. Number 10, Syracuse, playing number 1, North Carolina. Now, I know you were always pulling for North Carolina anyway, but what are your thoughts on Syracuse being in there? Last time they won, I think they had Carmelo Anthony.
It was, Charlton. They've only won one championship in their history, but you have to look at a coach like Jim Boeheim in Syracuse, Charlton. He has done a masterful job. This is only the 5th time that a team with double-digit losses has made it to the finals. And, Jim Boeheim, you really think of what he's done this season with this Syracuse team, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was suspended 9 games by the NCAA for whatever reasons, when they want to have a witch hunt and go after somebody.
Yeah.
They suspended the coach for 5 games, and those 9 games, and when he was out, Charlton, they were 5-4 as a team.
Yeah.
They got off to a very rocky start.
Yes.
And they also lost in the first round of the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
But they had some quality wins throughout the season, Charlton, and that was the key. He's been a quality coach over the decades, one of the top all-time collegiate coaches. And he got his team into the playoffs, and this is what happens when you make the tournament, Charlton.
Yeah.
You get on a run, you win 5 games, you can have an NCAA title. And Boeheim has his team on the cusp of that. Now, North Carolina is the best team in the tournament, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, up against Syracuse and the way they're playing right now, they have nothing to lose. Just being there, they have won a championship. And if they knock off North Carolina, who knows what will happen in the final.
Well, when you speak about knocking off North Carolina, under the great Dean Smith, they were always one of the great programs. And I think when you look at the Tar Heels, they reached the Final Four for a record 19th time. And that's an incredible, Big C. 19 times for one program being in the Final Four. And the last time they won it was 2009. Talk about, and I know this is kind of a situation you and I talk about a lot, because I think so many other people don't want to talk about it. The pay inequality, we have so many coaches making money on free labor. But just talk about the great Dean Smith and what he's done to make that program kind of the Notre Dame of college basketball.
Well, Charles, the arena that they play in is called the Dean Dome in honor of Dean Smith. He was a great, iconic coach for decades in North Carolina, and he did it the right way, Charlton.
Yeah.
He has great players on the college level. A lot of those guys graduated on to the NBA, but his graduation level at North Carolina was very high also, Charlton.
Yeah.
And one of his former players, we talked a lot about George Karl, the coach in Sacramento, who was one of Dean Smith's former players.
Yeah.
Also, Roy Williams, Charlton, who is the head coach at North Carolina now, was one of his proteges also. He played under Dean Williams. He learned how to coach under it.
Yeah.
And this program hasn't missed a stride since Roy Williams came over from Kansas, where he was very successful, and he took the job in North Carolina, which he always said was his dream job, the job that he wanted to retire from. I don't think he's going to retire anytime soon the way he has his team playing, Charles.
Well, the way they're playing, Big C, and either they're going to get Villanova or Oklahoma, and I was so impressed with the way that Oklahoma, they kind of jumped on Oregon from start to finish. And I know Oregon gets a lot of money pumped in from the great Uncle Phil, as you call him, Uncle Phil Knight. He's always pouring money.
Hey, it's always nice to have a rich uncle hanging out in the closet somewhere.
Yeah, don't forget him when it's time to make that Christmas list. But what are your thoughts on a team like Villanova? They talked about Massimino when they upset Georgetown back in the day under the great John Thompson. They, unlike North Carolina, they're not a staple in the March Madness, but this is a team that has a chance to win because they're so physical, Big C.
They're very physical, Charlton, and they play good team defense. That's the key. Everybody talks about regardless of the sport.
Yeah.
When it comes down to a championship run, it's always about great defense. Now, Oklahoma has Buddy Stevens at guard.
Yeah.
One of the top 3 players in the country, Charlton, and he'll go anywhere from 1 to 3 in the draft, depending on who's drafted. But Villanova can get physical, and that's the thing. When you have a team that has some fouls to use when you get to this time of the year, Villanova has a depth on the bench where they have a good rotation, and that's been the key to their success.
Well, one more thing that's a key to success, and I know I was listening to one of the attorneys talk about it over the weekend, because it keeps coming up, the antitrust violation when you can't earn money as an athlete, but the schools can make billions. Overall, there's about $1 billion being made through March Madness. And even just looking at some of the coaches that did not even make it to March Madness, Big C, and let alone the Final 16. I just want your thoughts on this. Steve Alford, coach at UCLA, $3.4 million a year. Tom Izzo, who I like as a coach because Michigan State's always in there, $3.89 million a year. Billy Donovan at Florida, $3.9 million. Bill Self, Kansas, talk about Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, $4.96 million a year.
Charlton, where do they find this money? You're in Kansas. That's where Dorothy's from the Wizard of Oz now. Okay?
Now I think we know the Wizard.
$9 million. That's like the state budget, isn't it?
The Wizard of Oz must be a bank. And then with the top 3, which is incredible, because you talked about these 2 guys just about last week when we were talking about March Madness. John Calipari, $5.5 million a year for Kentucky, where kids are there for like 1 year, and then they're kicked out. Very few make it onto the NBA that become successful. The great Rick Pitino, $5.75 million. And I'm going to say this name because it's funny. Coach Kujarewski. Remember the commercial with Duke back in the 2000s? Mike Krzyzewski, $9.6 million a year. Now, I know.
Charlton, look at this, Charlton.
Yes.
You have Pitino and you have
Calipari?
Your boy Calipari at Kentucky.
Yes.
Now, this is one state.
Yes.
You look at the salaries between 2 basketball coaches. We're talking $11 million.
Ouch.
In one state. That's just the 2 major universities, not the rest of the universities in the state track, Charlton.
Yeah.
$11 million going between 2 guys, and we're not talking about the suit contracts that they have.
Oh, my God. I've seen some of the $2,000 suits that athletes are not wearing. The coaches are wearing. But I just think as we get ready for March Madness, and it's a great thing, and sometimes people say, well, Charlton, why do you guys talk about money so much? Why are you guys always talking about pay inequality? And you brought it up, and I heard one of the great lawyers, he's on one of the networks, ESPN, I think he sits down and talks about it, how not paying athletes is an antitrust violation. But when you bring up the money issue, and we're all flying around the country, or at least a lot of people are, being corporately flown around the country to see these free basketball players entertained. Unlike the Harlem Globetrotters who get paid, these college kids, they're getting no money whatsoever for participating and making these universities wealthy. And because...
Well, Charlton, tell me this. Look at the ticket price to get into a Final Four game, even the Sweet 16. Look at the ticket price. Tell me what kid off the street from the inner city neighborhoods could go in and watch a Sweet 16 or a Final Four or even an Elite 8 game.
Yeah.
When you talk about the athletes not getting paid,
yes,
the only way they can get into the arena, Charlton, is if they're playing the game. They could not afford to go in and watch themselves play. It's ridiculous. I mean, the price that you charge, their parents can't even afford to go into these arenas. So who's footing the bill for their parents, Charlton, to fly across the country when they get to the Final Four?
Yeah.
If you got a kid on your team from the West Coast, East Coast, now the game's being played in Texas.
Yeah.
That's the middle of the country.
Yep.
And a last-minute airline ticket is not cheap.
Right.
So it's not like you could have booked this a month out saying, hey, I know my son's going to be in Houston. So when you're buying a ticket this week to get to Houston, who's paying the bill for that inner-city mother who is coming to watch her son play basketball, Charlton?
Also, who's going to class when the bell rings? These guys are down in the great state of Texas.
What are you talking about class? There hasn't been a basketball player in class in the last 2 months, okay? They have to put so much emphasis on these road games, tournament games. Now, we talked about March Madness.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about the conference tournaments leading up to it, Charlton. There hasn't been a basketball player in class in over a month. So what is the NCAA doing about this, Charlton? Are they really wanting these kids to get an education, or they're wanting to go out there and fatten the coffers of these universities, because when you're talking about having tutors on the road, if there's a tutor on the road, doesn't that mean that somebody else is doing your classwork for you, Charlton? I'm a little fuzzy on that one.
Well, I don't think you're fuzzy about it. I think you're pretty accurate about it. They're kind of laughing at the fact that they're going to cash these big paychecks because these kids are going to get together and try to win a national championship, but at least they're going to give them a trophy as opposed to a diploma for most of them, and that's a shame.
Oh, you mean they're going to give them a ring with cubic zirconium in it?
Hey, don't tell.
Not even real diamonds, not even worth money.
Now you're getting the husbands in trouble because their wives are going to go look at what rings they have. And speaking of husbands and wives, this segment is also sponsored by BMW of Northern California. Go test drive the ultimate driving machine and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And we keep talking about it.
That's the car that Charlton drives. That's why he's so high on it. You know, he's that rich boy.
Hey, I'm trying to get it free. I'm trying to get it free, Big C. I want to be treated like Charles Barkley for a change. And speaking of being treated like Charles Barkley, I know you're calling in from the East Coast all the time. I really appreciate your knowledge. And you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, because the Golden State Warriors right now, everybody's kind of giving it a conclusion that they're going to win and break the Bulls record. Right now, we know they're 66-7 on the season. San Antonio took it on the chin last week, but they're still 61-12. I think the pressure that's building up, they have to play Boston, they have to play San Antonio again, let alone the Clippers. What are your thoughts, Big C? Is it still important for them to try to break this record? What could be a hiccup for them?
Well, Charles, to look at it from this perspective, there's 9 games to go in the season.
Yeah.
Okay? They only have to go 7-2 to break the record.
Yeah.
Now, they're at a point right now, I feel they'll run the table. They'll put the record.
You think they'll run the table?
Will never be touched.
You don't think they'll lose again?
In my heart, I think Golden State is going to go 9-0 in these last games of the season.
Okay.
I just don't see the challenge out there. You got other teams sitting around Charlton wanting to get healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to rest players, okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference who Golden State sits now. Next man up. We've seen that game after game. Anybody can go out and get 30 in that Golden State lineup. So look at them to break the record and just obliterate the record, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, Klay Thompson went for 40 points last night, and they beat up Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is still playing in the NBA right now, but they...
Phillies in the baseball season?
117-105. Now when Allen Iverson talked about practice, you talk about practice? Now I think this team is taking hold of that. They're taking it too seriously, Big C.
Well, they go to game thinking that it's practice. That's the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, when you also look around the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers, DeAndre Jordan has 16 points and 16 rebounds as they became the 4th team in the Western Conference to clinch a playoff spot. Now, even with that happening, they're thinking about getting Blake Griffin back. Now, he's a lightning rod of an issue, Big C, but Blake Griffin, is he going to upset the chemistry of this team? Because they really haven't needed him. They're still a good team, but they count on DeAndre Jordan and passing the ball more as opposed to just giving it to Blake Griffin. Your thoughts on that?
Well, if they bring Blake back, they need to bring him off the bench, Charlton. They shouldn't insert him right into the starting lineup. As you say, they developed the chemistry with him out. You need to be able to have a big man that comes off the bench. I think Blake can fulfill that role at this point in the season. And Doc is a very smart coach.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be Doc. Keep them on the bench, bringing him in limited minutes right off the back. Because you remember, he has to get his game legs back. You just don't walk into an NBA game and run for 40 minutes. So he's going to need to get his game legs back. I think Doc may wean him in 20, 22 minutes a game for the first 4 or 5, and then get him more, incorporated into the offense, Charlton.
Well, speaking of offense, the Pacers also beat the Rockets 104-101, and Paul George scored 16 of his 25 points in the first quarter, and then overcame a 34-point deficit. James Harden, I tell you, he's a great shooter, but like you mentioned, he doesn't play a lot of defense, Big C, which is a lightning rod.
He don't even know what defense means, Charlton. I mean, his best job would be a matador in Spain, not a guard in the NBA.
Maybe his beard is a little bit too long and is weighing him down a little bit, Big C. But also, the Wizards beat the Lakers 101-88, and John Wall had 22 points.
Are the Lakers still playing?
I think Kobe is, Kobe, this is interesting too, because just like all the other things we've talked about with great athletes and teams, and you know how you want to build up a good team like Tim Duncan, a great leader, willing to take less money. Tom Brady in the NFL, willing to take less money to make their teams greater. Kobe, I think, for me, Big C, and I love the Laker organization, been following the Lakers since the 70s.
Charlton, Kobe has personified the word
selfishness.
Selfish. Okay?
Yeah.
He has personified that to a whole new level. I'm going to make my money. I don't care how bad I drag this organization down.
Yeah.
And the number 2 man in the NBA behind that is Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
This is the reason why Carmelo can't win.
Yeah. And see, that's something that in the old days, maybe it's not the old days, but I think there's something to be said about organizations that win. I think Red Auerbach. I think about the great Jerry West. Some of the great players in the past, I think they would have put themselves aside and let the team get better, because it's sad to see the Laker organization being so great. They've won championships in nearly every decade, but right now they're kind of the laughing stock of the NBA, and I just don't think that's right. That's not the way you want to go out, Big C.
Well, Charlton, the NBA is better when Boston is good, when the Lakers is good.
Yeah.
But, you've had such selfishness. Instead of wanting the organization to be good, you're on your farewell tour. You could have took a huge pay cut to say, hey, I just want to do one more year in the league, but I want that year in the league to be on a competitive team.
Yeah.
Let me take this salary in half, bring in 1 or 2 players that can help us be productive. That wasn't the case with the Lakers. So even once Kobe's gone, Charlton, it's going to be a 3 or 4 year rebuilding process, because whoever you bring in through free agency in the draft, it's going to take a minute to develop some continuity between those players, Charles.
Well, when you think about it too, Big C, and again, I mean, I'm not a sports fan per se. I love seeing good sports. The Lakers are 15-58, which I know guys like Magic Johnson, when he played, there was no way they would allow that to happen. So guys were willing to take less money just to bring in better players. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, they are 9-65, but none of their players have bounced paychecks, Big C. Oftentimes at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, it's hard to get a seat because there's so much money in Los Angeles. To just see how this organization has gone to the abyss of the NBA, it doesn't make sense to me when you have so much talent out there that they can put their money behind. So with that being said, any thoughts on who you think could help build that organization? I keep saying Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook coming to Los Angeles and building a team around them. They're still young and they're very talented, Big C.
Well, that would be an iconic move, but you also got to think about Blake Griffin maybe moving to the other side of the arena also, Charlton, from the Clippers. I don't see him being with the Clippers next year, but, you get Kevin Love in, who's a good scorer and rebounder, and he's a great team player.
Yeah.
But I also see them bringing in a guard. Westbrook would be a thought.
Yeah.
But, the Lakers are going to have to rebuild with a couple key free agents. They're not going to find anybody in the draft, maybe one player that will help them. But he's not going to come in and knock the NBA off its socks, all right?
Well,
so they have to get a couple free agents, established free agents. Carmelo Anthony, throw him out. LeBron, throw him out. The ego of LeBron is even too big for Los Angeles, Charlton. When you stop tweeting and chatting with your teammates, and you get a coach fired and you got a new coach that you're ostracizing, I don't know if that's selfishness or stupidity.
Well,
right now he's talking about that he's praising Steph Curry. Why?
Yeah.
Because no one's interested in him any longer. It's all about the Golden State Warriors, the team concept, Charlton.
Well, speaking of team concept, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer. They build them Ford tough. Go test drive the all-new Ford F-150 and tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, Big C, another lightning rod issue that I want to talk about, because this is important. We know that we just had Easter. People got together with their families. People ate lots of food and celebrated. However, if you watch today, I'm not going to mention the guy's name because he's still a minor. One of the top recruits from Mississippi State was arrested. He was arrested because they said that he hit a woman. Okay? They even have it videotaped. It's on the internet. You can see it if you want to. Kind of disturbing to watch.
Was that Brock Osweiler?
No, actually,
it wasn't Brock Osweiler?
It was not Brock Osweiler. And
they cropped somebody's head on there trying to make it look like it was innocent.
Well, see, the ironic part about that is this kid was arrested 3 days after the fact and charged with a misdemeanor. He's a college athlete.
Charlton, let me ask you this question about this kid, okay?
Yeah.
Was this kid African-American?
Yeah, he just happened to be African-American.
I just want to clarify that.
And see, that's the shame in this, because here's a young kid that will probably have his life altered. He's come out, I think, on Facebook and offered an apology. Now, here's a young man. They're not giving him $75 million. They're not making him the face of some NFL franchise. He obviously did something very wrong. You should never, ever, 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 ever hit or push a woman. There's no excuse for it. And we have men like ourselves who have the opportunity. And let's be honest, a lot of guys on TV, they don't have the guts to even talk about what's wrong. They just want to make sure they get their paycheck. So they don't want to say anything bad about anyone because they want the next big interview. Now, I know you talked about some guys with the Lakers that were fined or admonished just for, I guess, whistling at a woman or saying some things that were
just
flirting, whatever you call it.
Charlton.
Yeah.
But they didn't take a woman with their bodyguard, keep her held hostage in a bathroom in Atlanta, Georgia a couple of years ago where she couldn't get out and nobody could get in to help her, which is technically kidnapping, Charlton.
Yeah.
Kidnapping and alleged sexual assault that went on in this bathroom, but he's still taking snaps in the NFL and got a pay raise last year.
Well, think about this, what happened, because obviously, and I hate to say this, but too many men really don't care. I was talking to a Denver Bronco lineman just last week, and he was saying the NFL doesn't really care. They want to protect their marquee athletes. Now, if you're a woman, and it shouldn't just be men or men speaking out like us, and it shouldn't just be some women having to defend themselves, oftentimes people will say, well, no one's going to believe me. And I know even the great Oprah Winfrey, she's had a lot of programs where she would have women on the program talking about domestic violence. And I just think it's a bad and a good thing that this happened. It's bad because you should never hit a woman. I don't want anyone touching my wife or my daughter. You don't have to put your hands on them, period. We saw that Brock Osweiler did it. Now, Big C, the part that really bothers me is because I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I was at the Oakland Coliseum about 1996 when they came back from Los Angeles, I saw a huge defensive lineman. I won't say his name, but he's about 6'6", 300 pounds, and he was yelling at a woman for about a good 30 to 40 seconds. And she just sat there with her head down. Now, I was walking out with other media people. I was there working with one of the TV networks at the time. And I feel ashamed that I said nothing because I did not want to lose my media pass. And that's 20 years ago. 20 years has gone by.
Look at it from this perspective, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, we get the talking heads on television that never say anything about it, the guys, okay?
Yeah.
But
no, that's not true, Big C.
More egregious
well, Big C.
are the female talking heads on television.
Yeah.
Who turn a blind eye on it because they want to stay in this man's world. Okay?
Well,
and that's the same thing with that woman that took that verbal abuse outside the arena.
Yeah.
She stood there for a minute taking this verbal abuse just like the females on television. Now here it is, Aaron Andrews goes and sues a hotel chain and gets $55 million.
Yeah.
Okay? Look at the women on television. She didn't speak up for this woman that Osweiler pushed, okay?
I know. See, that's the point.
Speak up for any other woman.
Yes.
As long as she's getting her pocket padded, she can care less about what happens to any other female in society.
And you see,
even the money that she gets, because she gets paid millions from Fox.
Yeah.
Why don't she donate some of that money, that $55 million lawsuit, to some battered women's shelters? Help them out. The women on talking heads do not care about the other women in society, Charlton.
And see, that's the part that strikes a nerve. Just like going to the dentist, if your tooth hurts, you go to the dentist and you have them fix it. And see, you're just touching a nerve that bothers me to my core, because I know there are people who say, well, let's just be quiet and hopefully it'll boil over. Hopefully it'll spill over. Like the UFO people would say, well, maybe I didn't see a UFO. And we talked about it, Big C, on the program just the last couple of months. We've been talking about it when we were at Salem Media. The next time something happens, people are never going to bring up Osweiler, because every day that it goes by, there's another woman suffering in silence. We're getting everybody hyped for the March Madness to come to the Final Four now. We're getting everybody ready for the NFL draft. But my goodness, one of the biggest issues is how are we going to protect women in our society? And a lot of men don't say anything. And so even without the Charlton and Big C show, you wouldn't really hear about it because they covered 5 minutes of it a month ago when it happened. But a young kid, he's all over the papers now because he did the same thing, Big C.
The same thing, Charlton. But like I said, the most egregious part are the female talking heads who have platforms on television all day long, Charlton, on radio all day long. They don't bring up these incidents, whether they've been involved in domestic violence or not, but they've seen it, they've witnessed it, they've heard about it. But they're so wrong by not bringing it up, Charlton. It is a travesty that these women walk around because they got these 6 and 7 digit salaries saying, hey, I didn't get hit, so why should I care? And none of them talk about helping other women. We saw the commercial during Super Bowl week, Charlton. Enough, no violence. You know, whatever the NFL wanted to put out there as a safety coat,
right,
trying to cover up what they know is a problem.
Yeah.
But they don't do anything about it. The NFL should run commercials on this daily, weekly, ESPN, Fox, all the sports outlets, Charlton, NBC.
Yeah.
Let's do it on NFL games. It should open up every NFL game, every NBA game, every NHL and Major League Baseball game, Charlton.
Yeah.
No violence, because it exists in all the professional sports arenas.
Yeah.
No violence against women. It's not going to be acceptable.
Yeah.
And whenever it occurs, regardless of the player is, whether it's a quarterback or a defensive back, you should be automatically suspended for a year minimum, Charlton.
And see, Big C, in the last minute of the program, I think that is so powerful, because the hard thing that people have to realize is, what about the time that it might be someone that you love? What about the time that someone that you love comes home and says, Mom, this guy's been hitting me. Or Dad, this guy's been hitting me. Or Coach, this player hit me. We know about all the bad things that went on at Penn State, and they kind of push it under the carpet. We know about the allegations that have happened with so many athletes over the years. Now, Big C, we have March Madness, Final Four coming up on Monday. Now, everybody's talking about who we're going to see celebrate the national championship. Who's going to win the national championship? But I still think this issue with Brock Osweiler, this NFL quarterback that's pushing a woman twice in the parking lot, when young boys that see this behavior and it goes by with impunity, nothing happens, they kind of get the message, hey, it's really okay, Big C. In the last 30 seconds, your thoughts. How do we stop this problem, Big C?
Well, Charlton, if you look about a decade ago, they had the Duke lacrosse team. They were all accused of sexual misconduct.
Yeah.
Okay? They lost their scholarship. The team was stripped of playing lacrosse. We also had the allegations that came out this winter about the Louisville basketball team having escorts come in, sex parties, allegedly sex parties going on. Okay? And it's been wrong on those sides. But to sit there and know that a woman is being abused on whatever level, Charlton, is wrong, whether it's in society, whether it's in sports. And people turn a blind eye because we don't want to destroy somebody's career. You know, he'll seek, counseling with him. Look at Johnny Manziel. How many times did Johnny Manziel abuse a woman and still kept playing by the NFL? And the robbing him down because, he's such a marketing guru and a sensation because the Browns organization is selling jerseys. He can beat up poor women and get away with it.
Well, see,
it's under investigation, so we haven't acted on it. That's Goodell's words, Charlton.
And I think if, as men and women, we all have to speak up. Don't be silent. Just imagine it's somebody that you love. We love the sport. We love the game. But we also love when people are treated fair and they can feel safe in our society. And speaking of being safe, Big C, this show goes by way too fast. We have come to the end. It's all.
Have 2 or 3 things left to say.
It's like a first date is over in a minute. So I can tell you though, we're back every day, Monday through Friday at the 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Charlton and Big C Show. We're coming to you worldwide. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.